found out she was cheating 4 hours before we were supposed to get married. Not weeks before, not the night after. The same day, I was standing in a hotel bathroom, tie half done, phone buzzing on the sink, thinking about vows I'd memorized by heart. The room smelled like cologne and fresh flowers. Outside, people were laughing, getting ready, celebrating. Everything was moving forward, except my life. The message came from a number I didn't recognize. I don't know if you already know, but you deserve to. She's been seeing someone else. It didn't stop. First, I thought it was a prank, a cruel joke, someone trying to mess with me on the most important day of my life. I stared at the screen, waiting for the follow-up message that would explain everything away. It didn't come. Instead, another text appeared. Check her deleted messages. My hands went cold. I told myself not to do it, that touching her phone would cross a line I couldn't uncross, that trust meant choosing not to look, especially today. But something deep in my chest already knew. I walked back into the bedroom. She was sitting on the bed in a white robe, hair half done, laughing with her sister about something trivial. She looked radiant, calm, like a woman about to marry the love of her life. She smiled at me. "Everything okay?" I smiled back. "Yeah," I said, "just nerves." She handed me her phone without hesitation. "Can you take a picture of us later? Mine's charged." That ease almost convinced me I was wrong. Almost. I went back into the bathroom and locked the door. Her phone didn't have a passcode. That should have been comforting. Instead, it felt intentional. I opened her messages. Nothing obvious. Just group chats.
Wedding coordination.
Family updates. Then I checked deleted messages. My vision blurred. There were weeks of conversations. Intimate. Casual. Familiar in a way that didn't belong to a stranger. Inside jokes. Complaints about stress. About me. About how hard it was to keep pretending. One message stood out. "After today, we'll have to be careful." Today. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. This wasn't a past mistake. This wasn't something she'd confessed and we'd worked through. This was ongoing, planned, active. I scrolled further, my hands shaking so badly I had to sit down on the edge of the bathtub. Photos, not explicit but intimate enough. The kind you send when you assume they'll never be seen by anyone else. I checked timestamps. Some were from days ago. One was from last night, while I was sleeping beside her. My first instinct wasn't anger. It was disbelief. I kept thinking I'd misunderstood something, that context would change it, that there was some explanation that would make this less catastrophic. There wasn't. I heard a knock on the bathroom door. "You okay?" she asked. "We're running a little behind." Behind. I stared at the door, my heart pounding so loudly I thought she could hear it. "I'll be out in a minute," I said. My voice sounded steady. I don't know how. I took photos of everything, sent them to myself, put the phone back exactly where it had been. Then I looked at my reflection. I barely recognized myself. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Instead, I was standing there realizing that the person I trusted most had been lying to my face while planning a future with me. I walked back into the room. She stood up and smoothed her robe, smiling nervously. "You look pale," she said. "Are you sure you're okay?" I wanted to scream. Instead, I asked a question that would change everything. "Is there anything you want to tell me before we leave?" She blinked. "No," she said. "Why?" I watched her face carefully.
No guilt. No hesitation.
No fear. She kissed my cheek. "I love you," she said. That was the moment something inside me broke cleanly in half. Because even after everything I'd just seen, even knowing what she'd done, she could still say that without flinching. People always talk about red flags, but no one talks about how dangerous it is when there are none. When someone can lie this well. I told her we needed a few minutes alone. She looked confused but agreed. When the door closed behind her, I sat down again, staring at the wedding invitation on the table, our names printed in elegant font. A a future promised in ink. I had 4 hours to decide whether to walk down that aisle, 4 hours to choose between public humiliation and private devastation. And as voices and laughter echoed through the hallway, one thought kept repeating in my head. If she could do this today, of all days, then what exactly was I about to marry? And that was before I learned who the other man really was. I didn't confront her immediately, not because I was scared, but because I needed to understand how deep this went before I destroyed everything in front of hundreds of people. I left the room and walked down the hallway, my phone buzzing nonstop with messages from friends, family, coordinators. Where are you? Photographers ready. 10-minute warning for groomsmen. I ignored all of it. I went outside and sat on a concrete step behind the hotel, still wearing my suit jacket, tie loosened, heart pounding like I just run miles. I kept scrolling through the messages I'd sent myself, reading them again and again, hoping they'd change. They didn't. The man wasn't a stranger. That hit me next. Buried in the conversation was a name I recognized instantly. Someone I'd met. Someone who'd been around us. Someone who'd congratulated us on the engagement. He worked with her. Not just worked, he was her supervisor. The power dynamic alone made my stomach twist. But what destroyed me was the familiarity. The way they talked. The ease. The confidence that this would continue even after today. This wasn't an affair that accidentally overlapped the wedding. The wedding was part of the cover. I realized then why she'd been so calm lately. Why she hadn't seemed stressed like most brides. Why she'd been unusually affectionate the last few weeks. Almost gentle with me. She wasn't nervous. She was relieved. She thought she'd gotten away with it. I felt something inside me harden into clarity. I went back upstairs. The bridal suite was chaos. Makeup brushes, dresses, laughter, champagne flutes. Her friends were buzzing with excitement. Her mother hugged me, eyes misty, telling me how happy she was to finally call me family. I nodded, smiled, played the role, because what I was about to do couldn't be undone. I asked her quietly if we could talk alone again. She rolled her eyes playfully. "You're really nervous today," she joked. The door closed. I didn't yell. I didn't raise my voice. I handed her my phone. She looked confused, then pale. She didn't ask how I found out. That told me everything. Her shoulders slumped slowly, like the weight she'd been holding finally crashed down on her. "I was going to end it," she said immediately. "I swear." I asked when. She hesitated. Soon. Soon was doing a lot of work in that sentence. I asked if she planned to marry me today. "Yes," she said quickly. "Of course." That answer made me laugh. A short, hollow sound that startled even me. "So the plan was to marry me?" I said. "And keep lying?" She cried then. Real tears this time. She said it was complicated. That it started during a stressful period. That she felt trapped. That she didn't know how to stop without blowing everything up. I reminded her that she'd already blown everything up. She said she loved me. I asked why she kept seeing him after the engagement. She said she was afraid to lose both of us. That sentence changed how I saw her forever. Because love doesn't hedge bets. Love chooses. I asked if anyone else knew. She shook her head. I didn't believe her. I asked if she would have told me if we hadn't gotten married today. She didn't answer. Outside the door, someone knocked, asking if we were ready. She looked at me desperately, mascara streaked, voice shaking. "Please," she said, "don't do this here. Don't ruin everything. Everything. Not us. Everything. The venue. The guests. The photos. The story." I realized then that she wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid of being exposed. I told her I needed time. She nodded, wiping her face, already trying to compose herself, practiced, controlled. I walked out and went straight to my parents. I told them everything. My mother cried. My father didn't say much, just put a hand on my shoulder and asked what I wanted to do. That question grounded me, because for the first time all day, someone asked what I needed. The ceremony was scheduled to start in less than an hour. Guests were seated, music cued. Phones ready. I stood in a quiet hallway, staring at the floor, realizing that whatever choice I made would follow me for the rest of my life. If I walked away, I'd be the guy whose wedding never happened. If I went through with it, I'd be the man who married someone he already knew he couldn't trust. And as the music began faintly in the distance, soft, romantic, completely wrong, I understood something terrifying. This wasn't about embarrassment. This was about survival. Because marriages don't fail because of one bad day. They fail because of truths ignored when it mattered most. And I was standing at the last moment where ignoring it was still an option. I stood there while the music played. That soft, romantic song everyone associates with the happiest day of your life drifted down the hallway, mocking me. Guests were probably smiling, phones raised, whispering about how beautiful everything looked. They had no idea the groom was standing alone, staring at a wall, deciding whether to ruin his own life now or slowly poison it later. I thought about the last 4 years, the nights we stayed up talking about kids, the apartment we decorated together, the arguments we survived, the trust one thought we had earned. And then I thought about her sitting in a white dress, makeup fixed, rehearsing smiles, fully prepared to walk toward me while hiding another man in her phone. That's when the choice became clear. I walked to the front. People straightened in their seats when they saw me step out. A few smiled. Someone whispered, "He looks calm." I wasn't calm. I was empty. The officiant gave me a confused look. I wasn't supposed to be there yet. He leaned over and whispered, "Is everything okay?" I took the microphone from his hand. The room went silent. Hundreds of faces stared at me. Family, friends, co-workers, people who'd taken time off work and flown across the country to watch us promise forever. My hands were steady. My voice was not. "I'm sorry," I said. "This ceremony isn't going to happen." There was a wave of confusion, then murmuring. I didn't look at her at first. "I found out this morning that the woman I was supposed to marry has been having an affair," I continued. "And I can't stand here and lie to all of you or to myself." Gasped. "Shock?" Someone said her name out loud like it was a question. I finally looked at her. She was frozen, not crying, not screaming, just staring at me like she was watching a car accident in slow motion. I didn't share details. I didn't name the man. I didn't turn it into a spectacle. I simply said, "I deserve honesty in my marriage," and today showed me I wasn't getting that. Then I handed the microphone back, and I walked away. Behind me, chaos exploded. Her mother rushed to her. Friends whispered. Someone cried loudly. Chairs scraped against the floor as people stood up, unsure whether to leave or stay. I didn't wait to see what she did next. I went to the parking lot, took off my jacket, and sat in my car shaking. Not because I regretted it, but because once adrenaline fades, reality hits hard. Within minutes, my phone blew up. Texts, calls, missed calls. Her friends accused me of humiliating her. Some of my own relatives asked if I could have handled it privately. Others told me they were proud of me. She didn't call. Not once. That hurt more than I expected. I drove home alone. The apartment still had wedding decorations half finished. Suitcases packed for a honeymoon we'd never take. Gifts stacked neatly with cards wishing us a lifetime of happiness. I slept on the couch. The next day, she finally came over. She didn't apologize. She asked why I didn't protect her. That sentence told me everything I needed to know. In her mind, the betrayal wasn't the affair. It was me refusing to keep her secret. She said I ruined her life. I told her she ruined our marriage before it started. We divided things quietly, painfully, like strangers trying not to bleed on the floor. Weeks later, I found out she moved in with him. Her supervisor, the man she said meant nothing. That truth stung, but it also freed me, because I realized something important. If I had gone through with that wedding, I would have spent my life second-guessing every late night, every notification, every smile that felt a little too rehearsed. Walking away didn't make me weak. Saved me. People still ask me if I regret how I handled it. standing up in front of everyone, saying it out loud, ending it publicly. Here's the thing no one tells you. Some betrayals don't deserve quiet endings. Some lies are so big they don't fit behind closed doors. And sometimes, the most painful moment of your life is also the moment you finally choose yourself. If you've ever been in a relationship where something felt off, trust that feeling. And if this story hit you in the gut, stick around. There are more real stories like this coming, and subscribing means you won't miss the ones that make you question everything. I didn't catch her cheating the way people expect. No lipstick on collars. No late-night phone calls. No sudden password changes. What I noticed first was how normal everything still looked. That was the part that messed with me the most. We lived together, shared bills, shared routines. From the outside, nothing had changed. We ate dinner at the same time, watched the same shows, slept in the same bed. But somewhere along the way, I stopped feeling like I was with her. I felt like I was next to her. She started coming home later than usual, but never late enough to raise alarms. 30 minutes here, an hour there, always with reasonable explanations. Work ran long. Traffic was insane. We had a last-minute meeting. I believed her because believing was easier than imagining the alternative. The first real crack appeared on a random Tuesday. She was sitting on the couch scrolling through her phone, smiling to herself. Not laughing, smiling. Soft, private. The kind of smile you don't perform for someone else in the room. I asked what she was looking at. She tilted the phone slightly away without thinking and said, "Just something stupid." That movement was instinctive. That's how I knew. Still, I said nothing. Because when you've invested years into someone, your brain works overtime to protect the story you've been telling yourself. I started noticing patterns after that. She took her phone into the bathroom every time. Notifications stopped appearing on her lock screen. She angled her body away from me when she texted. But she was also nicer. Too nice. She complimented me more. Asked how my day was with exaggerated interest. Initiated affection at strange times, like she was checking a box. Guilt has a tone, and I was starting to hear it. One night, while we were lying in bed, I asked her if she was happy. She didn't answer immediately. That pause again. "I think so," she said carefully. I asked if she loved me. She turned toward me, looked me straight in the eyes and said yes. Her voice didn't shake. That almost convinced me, but something was off. Love shouldn't feel like it's being recited. A few days later, I noticed she'd changed her routine. She started going to the gym after work, something she'd never done consistently before. New clothes, new perfume, subtle but noticeable. She told me she wanted to feel better about herself. I supported her, encouraged her. I didn't realize I was cheering from the sidelines while she prepared for someone else. The moment that truly unsettled me happened late one night. She fell asleep on the couch, phone still in her hand. I stared at it for a long time. I told myself not to touch it, that invading her privacy would make me the bad guy, that trust meant choosing not to look. But trust had already been quietly dismantled. I picked it up. The screen lit up. No messages open. No obvious red flags. But there was one app one didn't recognize. Hidden inside a folder labeled Utilities. My heart started pounding. I didn't open it. Instead, I placed the phone back exactly how it was and went to bed. Because deep down, I knew something worse than proof was happening. I was preparing myself. Over the next few weeks, the emotional distance widened. She stopped sharing small things, stopped venting, stopped asking for advice. She was emotionally fulfilled somewhere else, and I was starting to feel it in the emptiness she left behind. I tried to reconnect, plan dates, conversations, weekend trips. She participated, but without enthusiasm, like someone being polite. One evening, I asked if we were okay. She said, "Why wouldn't we be?" I told her I felt disconnected. She told me I was imagining things. That gaslight flickered softly, not enough to burn, just enough to confuse. I began questioning myself. Was I insecure? Was I projecting stress? Was I sabotaging something good? That's the danger of slow betrayal. It doesn't explode. It erodes. Then came the night everything shifted. She told me she was staying late at work again. I said okay. An hour passed. Then two. I checked her location, something I'd never done before. She wasn't at work. She was across town, at a place I didn't recognize. I stared at the screen until it dimmed. My chest felt hollow. Still, I didn't confront her, because part of me hoped there was a harmless explanation, that I was wrong, that this would all resolve into embarrassment instead of heartbreak. She came home eventually, smiling, relaxed, happy. She kissed me like nothing was wrong. That was the moment I realized something devastating. Whoever she was becoming, whoever she was sharing herself with, it wasn't me anymore, and I was the only one still pretending we were on the same side of the story. After that night, I couldn't unsee it. Once your instincts wake up, they don't go back to sleep just because you ask nicely. Every interaction felt slightly off, like I was watching a familiar movie with the audio out of sync. Her smiles lasted a second too long. Her explanations came too quickly. Her affection felt rehearsed, like she was trying to maintain a version of herself rather than just being one. I started paying attention in ways I never had before. Not obsessively, not dramatically, quietly. She stopped leaving her phone unattended. If she did, it was always face down. If I walked into a room unexpectedly, she locked it without realizing I was there. When I asked simple questions about her day, the answers were vague. Not lies, just incomplete. I noticed she no longer complained about work. She used to vent constantly, about coworkers, deadlines, office drama. Now, nothing. It was like someone else was absorbing all that emotional energy before it ever reached me. One evening, I asked if I could come with her to one of those late work dinners she kept mentioning. I said it casually, like it hadn't been eating at me for weeks. She froze, just for half a second. Then she laughed it off, said it was boring, said it was mostly coworkers she didn't even like, said I wouldn't enjoy it. I told her I didn't mind. She said maybe another time. There was never another time. That night, I lay awake listening to her breathe, wondering how someone could be so close and so far away at the same time. I tried to remember when the last time was that she had looked at me like she used to, like I was the safest place in the room. Couldn't. The emotional shift hurt more than suspicion ever could, because even if there wasn't cheating, something was already gone. A week later, I got confirmation. Not proof, but confirmation. From someone who had no reason to lie. A mutual acquaintance mentioned seeing her out one night. Not at work. Not with coworkers. With some guy, they said casually. Looked like a date. My stomach dropped, but my voice stayed calm. I asked when. They gave me the date. It matched one of her late nights. I thanked them and changed the subject like nothing had happened. The drive home felt unreal, like I was watching myself from the outside. I didn't feel angry yet. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt numb. When I walked into the apartment, she greeted me the same way she always did. Kiss on the cheek. Hey, you. I almost laughed. I didn't confront her that night. I needed to be sure, not for proof, but for myself. I needed to know whether the woman I loved would tell the truth if given the chance. A few days later, I asked her again if there was someone else. This time, I didn't soften it. I didn't joke. I didn't apologize for asking. She looked offended, hurt. How could you even think that? She asked. I told her things felt different, that she felt distant, that I was scared of losing her. She hugged me, held me tightly, told me she loved me, told me I was the only one. For a moment, I almost believed her. That's how convincing she was. But something inside me broke quietly in that hug, because I realized she wasn't lying to hurt me. She was lying to protect the version of herself she wanted to keep. The next few days were torture. Every kind gesture felt fake. Every laugh felt borrowed. Every "I love you" felt like it came with an expiration date. Then I made a mistake, or maybe the smartest decision I'd avoided making. I checked her phone. Not sneakily, not secretly. She had asked me to grab it for her while she was in the shower. It buzzed. A name I didn't recognize lit up the screen. Not a coworker, not a friend, just a first name. The message preview was short. Last night was worth the risk. My hands went cold. I didn't open the message. I didn't need to. That single sentence rewrote months of confusion in my head. When she came out of the bathroom, I handed her the phone. She saw my face immediately. She knew. The silence between us stretched, thick and suffocating. I asked her who he was. She didn't deny it. That hurt more than denial would have. She said it wasn't planned, that it just happened, that she never meant for it to go this far. She said it didn't mean she didn't love me. That sentence nearly broke me, because loving someone and betraying them aren't opposites. They're choices. I asked how long. She hesitated, then gave a number that was longer than I expected, but shorter than the truth I'd already felt in my bones. I asked why she stayed. She said she didn't want to lose what we had. I almost asked which part, but I didn't, because I already knew the answer. And as I sat there listening to explanations that sounded more like justifications, one thing became painfully clear. She hadn't slipped. She'd slowly stepped away, and I'd been standing there, holding the door open, hoping she'd turn around. And the worst part? She had looked me in the eyes for weeks and let me believe I was imagining it. That was the betrayal I wasn't sure I could forgive. The room felt smaller after she admitted it. Not physically, emotionally. Like the walls had leaned in closer, waiting to hear what I'd do next. She kept talking, explaining, filling the silence with reasons that sounded rehearsed, like she'd practiced them in her head long before I ever found out. She said she felt lonely, said we'd grown distant, said she didn't mean for it to happen the way it did. I noticed how often the word "I" appeared in her sentences. Not we, not us, just I felt I was confused. I asked her one simple question. Did you ever plan to tell me? She didn't answer right away. That hesitation told me everything. She said she was scared, that she didn't want to hurt me, that she thought she could end it quietly and things would go back to normal. Normal, as if betrayal has an undo button, as if trust doesn't remember. I asked her if she loved him. She said no, too quickly. I asked if she loved me. She said yes and started crying. Those tears didn't comfort me. They scared me, because they weren't about losing me. They were about being caught between two versions of herself. That night, I slept on the couch, not out of anger, out of exhaustion. My mind replayed every moment I doubted myself. Every time she told me I was overthinking. Every time I'd chosen trust over instinct. I realized how deeply that had damaged something inside me. Not just trust in her, trust in myself. The next morning, she acted strangely calm, like the truth being out had lifted a weight off her, even though it had crushed me. She made coffee, asked if I wanted breakfast, tried to talk about logistics, about what this meant for us. I stopped her. I told her I needed time, real time, not the kind where one person waits while the other decides. She nodded, agreed, said she understood. But when she packed a bag, she took more than a few days' worth of clothes. That detail stuck with me. The days after she left were quiet in a way I wasn't prepared for.
No tensión, no guessing.
No wondering where she was or who she was texting. Just absence and pain. Friends asked what happened. I gave vague answers. I wasn't ready to tell the full story. Partly because saying it out loud made it feel more real. I kept replaying one thought over and over. She didn't just cheat. She watched me doubt myself and let it happen. That realization changed everything. When she reached out again, a week later, her tone was softer, more careful. She said she missed me, said she was confused, said she wanted to fix things. I asked her one last question. If I hadn't seen that message, would you still be lying? She didn't respond for a long time. Then she said, I don't know. That was my answer. I told her I was done. Not dramatically, not angrily, Just honestly, she cried, asked if I was sure, said people make mistakes. I agreed, but I also said something I'd been holding inside since the night it all came out. A mistake is forgetting. This was a pattern. We ended the call quietly.
No yelling.
No closure speech. Just the sound of something ending because it had already been broken for a long time. Healing wasn't immediate. Some nights, I still woke up reaching for a phone that no longer mattered. Some days, anger replaced sadness without warning. Trust didn't come back quickly. Not in her, not in anyone. But clarity did. I started to understand that loving someone doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. That loyalty isn't proven when things are easy. It's proven when temptation exists. And that the most damaging lies aren't the obvious ones. They're the ones that make you doubt your own reality. I don't hate her, but I no longer miss the version of myself who stayed silent to keep the peace. Because peace built on betrayal isn't peace at all. It's just fear wearing a calm face. If the story hit close, if you've ever ignored your instincts, trusted someone who made you question yourself, or stayed longer than you should have, subscribe and stay. These stories aren't just about cheating. They're about learning when to finally walk away.